Hey, I'm Jax, and I really like Star Wars. Like a lot. So I want to make a corset inspired by a Jedi. So let's start designing that. Now let's start designing the corset. So first we gotta wrap our form in saran wrap. Now we need to tape up the form. Alright, now let's actually start drawing out what the corset's gonna be. Okay, so the idea for this one is I want to do a more basic corset shape because all of like the Jedi all have very similar looks to them. And also, I want to have a nice big hood because all Jedis have like a cloak with a big hood. So I want to be sure to include that in the design. What? Corset Boy's making something other than just a corset? While also having the hood, I also want to have a busk on this particular corset. Alright, so this is where we're at. We got what the hood is gonna be, and here's all of our pieces. So now, let's cut it off the form. Now we cut out each individual piece. Okay, so now let's actually start making the pattern. So first we take a piece, then we pin the piece down, then we tape. Then we add our seam allowance. Then we cut it out. So here is one of our pieces. Now we just gotta do it for the rest of them. All right, this is super simple. All we're doing is tracing around the whole entire thing 1/2 inch to give us our seam allowance. Yeah. So here are all the pieces that I mocked up on our form here. So now let's actually draft out what the hood is gonna look like. All right, let's draft out the hood pattern. First, we need to get the 2 measurements from the front and the back of the neck. After that, we make a sharp right angle. This will be the back of our hood. Then we're gonna draw out how long each individual piece. I'm also adding 2 inches. In total, it will be 5 and 6 inches. After that, I'm gonna curve it down a little bit more so that way I can have that nice big hood. After that, we're gonna close our big loop and add in our seam allowance, which again, it's 1/2 inch to keep it nice and simple so that way you keep following along. And then we cut out the pattern. So here's our completed pattern. So now, let's cut everything out. Nice. So here is our fabric that we're gonna be using. This feels very Jedi to me. So let's start cutting out our pattern. Okay, all we're doing here is cutting out our pattern. So we're weighing down our pattern pieces, and then we're using the rotary cutter and cutting all the way around. We're doing this out of our face, our interfacing, and our lining. We're being sure to cut out 2 of our face in specifically the very front piece, so that way we can make our bust, so that way it looks nicer. Okay, so here's the entire pattern. Now, we gotta get the sewing. So let's do that. It's prep work time. All we're doing here is just attaching our face to our interfacing because I have sew on interfacing, not iron on interfacing. They're very similar, but they're 2 different things. So I gotta sew it together. All right, now that all the prep work is done, let's actually start putting in our busk. So first we're gonna take this half and mark out exactly where we want this to be. So first we're gonna go 1/2 inch up and mark this. Then we're gonna line up our bottom here, like so. And then we're just gonna mark out our lines here. So that way I know where to sew. Now, just sew where all the marks are. Okay, now we slide in all of the loops into the holes here. Okay, now that this is together, we can actually, we're gonna gum 1/2 inch and sew it down. I have to switch back to this camera angle because I couldn't actually sew it together. So we're gonna go back over here now. We have 1/2 of the busk in, now let's put in the other half. So we're basically doing the same exact thing, just a little bit easier. All we're doing is sewing down 1/2 inch. Then we're gonna slide our busk piece in between those 2 and then sew down another 1/2 inch so that way it locks it in place. So now that it's in its correct spot, we gotta cut out little holes so that way the pegs can come out. So let's do that. You see this part? That part right there, this sucks. That part sucks. Like a lot. Like so much. It's part of the reason why I don't really like using busks all too often. Sometimes I throw them in and I'm like, this will be fun. It's never fun. It's always annoying. This part alone took 20 minutes. I don't like using busks. Now that this is all together, we can start actually attaching the rest of it. So let's get into that. Now this part is easy. All we gotta do is sew 1/2 inch all the way across. And then we're gonna add in our bone channels. We're just doing internal bone channels. We're just sewing down 1/4 inch on each side and making the bone channels. Yeah. And while we're here, we're also going to make the lining. Just 1/2 inch. Super simple. We got our 2 halves. Now we gotta put our bones inside the channels. So let's do that. Let's go over the boning. For this one, we're using spiral steel. We're chopping it off 1/2 inch from the top and 1/2 inch from the bottom. Now we're adding on our finish, which is heat shrink. We're just gonna cover the edge to make it nice and clean. Then we're gonna put each individual bone into each individual bone channel. Yeah! Sweet. Now we can finish putting this together. So let's do that. All right, now let's attach the lining. So all we gotta do is sew on our 2 pieces of lining to the 2 pieces of lining that's already been attached to the corset. And then after that, it's another reason why I don't like working with busks. It's really annoying to flip them over to get a nice clean finish. After we finally flip it over, then we just add a top stitch, putting the 2 pieces together so that way it's easier to attach our edge later. All right, let's attach our edge. All we're doing is sewing 1/2 inch all the way around, flipping it over, then sewing along that seam once more to finish our edge. So we've done all the sewing on the corset. Our next step would be to add grommets, but I'm gonna wait to do that until we finish the hood. So let's grab our hood pattern here and start working on that. So our first step is we're actually gonna iron on our interfacing here and then start sewing. So let's get to ironing. Cool. So now let's head over to the sewing machine and actually sew together our hood. Corset boy sewing something other than a corset. Let's start explaining. So first we're gonna take our 2 halves of the hood. We're gonna sew along our back seam. Then we're gonna also sew together our shoulder piece. We're just attaching the front to the back. Then we're gonna head over to our serger and serge off our seams here just to get it nice and clean. After that, we're gonna head back over to the sewing machine. Now we're gonna sew the hood to the shoulder piece. Then we're gonna head back over to the serger one more time, clean up that edge. Then we're gonna head back to the sewing machine. We're gonna take the hood that's attached to the shoulder piece already and the lining of the shoulder piece and sew those 2 pieces together. We're gonna almost finish it, but we're gonna leave a little spot in the back so that way I can flip everything out and then just do a top stitch around the back to finish it off. Is there better ways of doing this? Yeah, this is just the way that I chose to do it. Now let's add our grommets to our pieces here. Hammer time. Sweet. So now let's lace it up on the form. Sweet. Nice. Alright. Mission accomplished. Cut to me in front of a green screen giving my final thoughts. Ta-da! There's a nice, cleaned, and finished Jedi corset. I think that turned out really cool. So, if you have any suggestions of other characters that I should turn into Corset, or other themes or stuff like that, drop it in the comments. And if you stuck this far along in the video, maybe you should consider, leaving a like and subscribing. That's the end of the video. May the Force be with you.